Hello everyone, my name's Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is November 9th, 2024. And this is a quick update about Bitcoin and altcoins. I've been saying all week, probably since Monday, that Bitcoin was likely going to go to all-time high, break all-time high just about at the region where we're at right now, the 77,000 region, then stall. And after that stalling, I said we would likely come down, okay? And last video, I even said it was likely to happen at some point this weekend, that we would likely come down. Still think that's true. So we'll see what happens with that. The other thing I said was that altcoins would likely rally. And while Bitcoin was stalling, altcoins would rally. This is also happening. But that's not finished yet. And I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you how I know it's not finished and where I think altcoins are going. Right? When I think, okay, that rally's going to be over. And so it's also now time for altcoins to stall and then retrace. So we're going to look at that. And we're going to, I've been getting a lot of messages today about what if Bitcoin breaks your red line, which is your invalidation for your running flat correction. Okay, what then? What do you do? So I'm going to talk about all that and more. So stay tuned. I hope everyone's doing well. Let's get into it. So let's start with Bitcoin. All right. Bitcoin is clearly in a sort of consolidation. Now, there are some legitimate questions about what's likely to happen at this level. Are we going to stay here and then return? Okay. Or are we going to break out? That's a good question. I don't know. I'm gonna start first with my red line. Okay. I don't know that there is a such thing as an invalidation level to the penny for a few reasons. When you talk about support and resistance, you're usually talking about zones of support and resistance. But I did not get this. I did not derive or acquire this red line on the basis of support and resistance. If I did, it would, and I'll show you a support and resistance zone in a second on the Bitcoin dominance indicator, but you'll see there that I am in the habit of making support and resistance zones. So like they're areas, not just discrete lines. The second thing I'll say is this. There is a chance of, non-zero probability that I measured A incorrectly, okay? The orthodox top of A and the orthodox bottom of A have to be, ascertained to be able to measure A. Take the inverse Fibonacci to get the maximal, length of B. So the phi ratio of B. I.e., what I'm trying to say in simple terms is, if I measure A as this instead of that changes this red line. If I measure A like this, that's what I get the red line as. If I pull it back down here somewhere, that red line moves up a bit. So I hope you get the point. I did my best to try and think, okay, what would a three-wave move more likely than not look like? I see 3, 3, 5. The question is, where do these 5 waves end? I'm not exactly sure. Okay, for that reason, I'll give myself grace with this red line. Okay, I'm not gonna say, oh, it touched the red line, it's invalidated, we're gonna go up to 80k, 80 plus k. I'm not gonna say that, because I understand how I came to determine the level of this red line. And so given that this is, I could be wrong about how I pulled A, right? Give or take a few points, or take a few dollars, then I will say generally speaking, the invalidation is up here somewhere. Now, that being said, it's not at 80K. However you slice it, I'll show you really quickly. If I take my Fibonacci from the top here, which is clear that this is the top of A, right? It's just a question of what's the bottom. Is it here? Is it here? Is it down here somewhere? Let's say it's down here somewhere, then the phi ratio, do you see, is up here, not there. So yeah, give or take a few dollars, it's in this region. The invalidation is in this region. So you know what I'll do? Just to, actually, let me do it here while the red line's in place. I'm going to do something like this. Okay, so my invalidation now changes from a discrete line to a rectangle, not because I think phi ratios are to be trifled with, because they're not. In my experience, if you have that 1618 and the price touches it, it's basically a matter of time before it blows past it. And I know from experience, I've been in shorts where my invalidation, my stops were at the phi ratio, and the phi ratio was being touched and then bounced off of, and I'm like, oh, I'm safe. And every single time that happens, I just wait a couple hours, boom, right through. So that may still happen, in which case I would have to reassess the entire read. Okay, reassess the entire read, and that's fine. And I'll show you why that's fine also, because it doesn't change the spirit of my analysis. The spirit of my analysis is what? It's that Bitcoin is likely to stall, more or less. It's been going sideways and up, but pretty much stalling, while altcoins, generally speaking, are to experience a larger degree, relatively speaking, of upward mobility. So this is a definition of alt season, right? Cardano's been going been going, I won't say crazy, but it's been going up substantially. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's been stalled. That's the definition. That's what you see in alt season. What else? I don't have another example off the top of my head, but you get what I'm trying to say. So that's Bitcoin. I hope that answers your questions about my invalidation point, about how I got my invalidation point, about what I would do if that invalidation level was broken. So if this red region was completely smashed, then I would just reassess. Okay, and then it's more likely than not the top of this box. But then I don't know what's going on here, so I'd have to reassess. I'd have to zoom out, go on a higher time frame, reread, because I no longer have this running flat, and so I have to figure out, like, what the hell is this, right? What's all this right here? Are we in some sort of ending diagonal? That's my best bet. No, but then yeah, maybe an ending diagonal, right? Something like that. But even there, do you see? Look at this. And I mean, this is a good point. Look at this. There's a clear resistance here. There's a clear resistance here. You're hitting a clear resistance, which is confluent with our invalidation level. Do you see that? So price has shown you that this right here has been in place since mid-October. And so a break of this you still have to come back and retest it. You probably, if you break this, here's what's likely to happen. You break, you try to retest, and you fall back in. Because a break of this would have to be a proper retest of resistance as support before a breakout. So there's nothing much going on with Bitcoin at this level. People who are buying here are FOMOing. That's a FOMO. You're buying at resistance. What resistance are you buying at? Well, you're both buying at, oh, I like that. You're both buying at this diagonal ascending resistance, and you're pretty much at the resistance of this multi-year channel. You're buying at resistance. Silly, right? You don't want to FOMO, and a lot of crypto analysis channels that popped up on my feed are like, I'm going all in Bitcoin. They get really excited at resistance. That's strange. If anything, you wait for the breakdown, the eventual breakdown. If it doesn't break down all the way down, right? Because look at this. I mean, and I'm just doing pattern analysis here. This is a rising wedge. Rising wedges tend to break down, but it's a pattern that's been in place since mid-October. If anything, I'm waiting for a retest of the midline of this pattern or anything at the base of this pattern before I want to buy seriously in this asset Bitcoin, right? So again, the spirit of the analysis is such that I'm not expecting much from Bitcoin at these levels. That's it, not expecting much, but I do still see a consolidation, a distributive consolidation, i.e., a consolidation that leads to an eventual breakdown, and this is still my target. And I still think that will come sooner than later, more likely than not tomorrow or early Monday, when we typically get those drops, right? It's usually the case that the weekend is bearish or sideways. And if you get bearish price action, it's either I'm not going to say it's usually like this or like that, because in different market phases it's different. So yeah, it's just typically weekends are sideways and down for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin plays directly off of the US dollar, which is not trading on the weekends. And so that's typically what you see. On the once in a while you will see a pump on the weekends, but it's rare. In any case, the next thing I want to talk about is altcoins, okay? And if you go on the small time frame, let's go on the hourly. No, you can't really see it on the hourly. 4 hourly. I want you to see this. So basically, what I was showing, and I'm going to move this for a second. This is relevant, so I don't want to get rid of it, but I'm going to move it. There. We have our inverse head and shoulders or bullish reversal pattern. Very clear here, okay? And that is a bullish pattern that's broken out. That's a clear breakout if I've ever seen one. It's clearly not at its target. How do we know that? Well, these bullish reversal patterns, you take the target by taking the height of the pattern, superimposing it from the side of breakout, which I've done already, and this right here is our target right here at this dotted line. Zooming out for a second, you can see that that dotted line is at this previous resistance, which we formed right here, and we would then be making a larger bullish reversal pattern, which would eventually give us another breakout. So this is very likely, very high probable target for this breakout, okay? And this is the total 3. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what this chart was. I'm assuming everybody knows, but this is the total 3 chart, which is basically every asset in in crypto minus Bitcoin and Ethereum, the two largest market caps. So this is essentially the aggregate chart of altcoins, and the aggregate chart of altcoins is showing that we just broke out, and that breakout is about a fourth of the way up. And so, I mean, we still got a ways to go, and that can happen quite quickly. But once we get into this region, I can expect some cooling off of this breakout. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing in altcoins. Meanwhile, during the time that this has been moving up, right? You can see this is on the daily time frame, but I want to draw your attention specifically to yesterday's candle, right? Because this is I'm recording this at like 9 p.m. So the daily candle for yesterday already closed. But look at this. You have a big breakout candle, right? Breakout from this pattern that I showed you, this bullish reversal pattern yesterday. That's a big one. That happened yesterday, and yesterday Bitcoin didn't do much of anything. So again, this is what you're seeing, what I was talking about on Friday. You are likely to see altcoins break out while Bitcoin stalled. That's exactly what we saw. And I'm going to further kind of I'm going to further underline that point. And this is very clear. I mean, people can say, oh, well, I mean, it depends how you look at it, or, Bitcoin did go up a little bit. We did make all-time, no. Look at this chart. This is why you shouldn't be in Bitcoin right now if you're just looking at gains. How far your invested dollars will go. This chart tells you altcoins are where it's at, and altcoins have been moving. Meanwhile, Bitcoin hasn't. So what is this? For those of you who watch the channel, you'll know I look at this all the time. This is a very useful indicator called the Bitcoin dominance indicator, showing Bitcoin's dominance vis-a-vis altcoins, i.e., if it goes up, that means Bitcoin's gaining against altcoins in market cap. This only happens when Bitcoin's dumping and altcoins are dumping even more, or Bitcoin's going up and altcoins aren't going up at all. The only time it goes down is when the opposite is true. Altcoins are going up, Bitcoin's going sideways. Okay? Again, the only reason this chart goes down, this Bitcoin dominance chart, you see red candles here, that means, sorry, let me back up. You see sustained trending red candles on a high time frame on this Bitcoin dominance chart. You get altcoins. You buy altcoins, you get altcoins, because altcoins are mooning. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's just hanging out, stalling. That's exactly what you see on this chart. Ever since the beginning of the week, when we reached the top right here, and this obviously is a generalization, it's an aggregate chart, but you see that reached the top on Monday and Tuesday. Ever since, you have a steady stream. We had a bit of a intrawave consolidation midweek, and now it continues again. Now, what can we expect this to do? Where can we expect it to go? Very clearly, I've put a range of support where I expect the price to come down to at the very least. So what is this? This is a previous support of this region right here. Okay? And it is a swing high that we hit in April. So this is an important level. I don't even expect it to stop here. I expect it to come down at the very least here. I actually expect it to bounce off over here, which is our multi-year, 10 plus year support and resistance, diagonal support and resistance on this chart if I zoom out. So I don't expect for Bitcoin dominance to stop going down here. The altcoin run for this particular pump doesn't end, in my estimation, until we get at least to this region of this green box. So that's what I'm seeing on the chart. The overall analysis remains. I don't expect Bitcoin to do much because, again, think about it. If Bitcoin were really going to pump from where it's at, then this could not come down here. And based off of this indicator, this is already initiated. It's basically in the middle of the move. It has to complete the move. You can't put the baby, or you can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle. It's a baby, have to do with anything. So it's already in the middle of the move. It has to come all the way down here at the very least. So Bitcoin's gonna hang out. That's what I'm seeing. This is what this chart is telling me. The Bitcoin's chart telling me that as well as our total 3 chart is at least telling me that altcoins are going to go. It's not telling me that Bitcoin won't go, right? But Bitcoin dominance chart is telling me that Bitcoin is not going to go and altcoins are going to go. And yeah, and this resistance, this diagonal resistance, which I actually just noticed right now during this episode with you, that's also telling me Bitcoin's not moving much past this level, because that's a resistance. That's a significant resistance. That's more than 2 weeks old. So you don't, I mean, yeah, you can break resistances, especially if you consolidate at them, which this is very much so, a consolidation at resistance. But if you break them, you're going to have to retest them, right? So if it did break, I wouldn't expect much of a break. That's all I'm saying. So that's it for me. Hope this was helpful. If this was useful, like, share, and subscribe. Consider buying me a coffee at the pinned comment below. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.